Hey everybody, welcome back to the Combat Chain. I am your host, Patrick, who's got 2 thumbs and 3 assassins to build. This guy, Shaw, and with me as always is my co-host, Adam. My floor is high, my ceiling is low. Wait, that's the room closing in. Help me, Philip Chuck. Adam, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. As always, I'm trying to wrap my head around the intro phrase you've chosen for me. Part of that is in reference to our conversation about Briar earlier today. But yes, the room closing in, I'm going to be honest, right over the head.
Because the floor is rising, the ceiling is low. It's because it's coming down. Because it's a trap.
It's in reference to Riptide.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and just a room closing in. This is why the ceiling would be low. It would be lowering. The ceiling would be moving in an effort to compress you into a tiny thing. Have you ever seen, there is, I think I brought this up once, and I'm going to bring it up again. There is a movie, it's a Spanish movie, I believe. I think it's called Tet's Room, but it's like one of these like hill, like haunted house on the hill type movies. But it's where a series or a group of mathematicians are brought into this mysterious mansion with like a letter inviting the biggest brains to come in. And so they all get into this room, and like the host of the place tells them they're in like a competition, and they're gonna have to solve math problems out throughout the night. And like if someone comes out the winner, they're gonna win the prize. So the host leaves, and then the dining room they're in starts like closing in a little bit, and like out in the middle pops like a pegboard, and it's a math problem, and it's abstract math things that happen. They gotta solve this all. The math geniuses gotta do it, and the room is just slowly moving in as they solve the problem, and the pressure comes on as the puzzles get more difficult and the room gets tinier and tinier, and they don't all make it. Spoiler alert. But
you have brought this up before. I can confirm I do recall. And in fact, this gave me an idea for 2 drinking games. One is every time Pat brings up this particular movie, you take a drink. The one that'll get you drunk quicker is just whenever Pat goes off the rails, take a drink.
Yes, absolutely. We're just going to bring him on so he's not hanging on too long. Our guest this week is the leader of the Buds Discord and our best friend, Tommy fresh off his shift of work. Tommy, how you doing?
I'm all right. I'm in a few beers deep and ready to get... I don't know what the hell the plan is with this episode. I know that you were going to have me on to convince me not to play Levia, but then Outsiders News came on, so maybe I'm still playing Levia this weekend. So we have no clue what the hell is happening. I'm happy to be here.
I'll tell you what. I was very ambitious, and we had a plan. There was an idea here, right? It started when you and I went on Twitter, and we said that we would solve this in a very special episode of the Combat Chain. So the gears started turning. How can I make this into a very special episode? What does that mean? It's a serious episode. It's something that, something dramatic happens. And so I was going to stage an intervention for you, is what I was going to do. A Levia intervention. And so I was going to bring on all the people that you know and loved and really care about you, and tell you to just do something better with your life than play Levia. And I was going to turn that into an episode where we would do a ProQuest preview season of all the different archetypes as people came on left and right and tried to pitch you these other heroes. So it started strong. And it really crashed and burned. It is Tuesday. I had this idea, Adam, I don't know, was it Wednesday, Thursday when I tried to,
something like that.
Tried to piece it together. And then I am a father. I've said that before as well. My 5-year-old and I flew solo all weekend, and he decided that his sleep schedule was
sleeping is
like
optional.
well, he slept fine, but he woke up about 3 a.m. each morning for the last like three nights, and I did not go to bed early enough for that to not affect me. So my weekend was long and arduous, and I was going to get Gary was going to be one of my people. There was others. We were reaching out to Michael Hamilton. We were reaching out to Rakowski. We were reaching out to some of the best players here in the game, and we were going to end on a note here. And once Adam, I think we'll fire up a stream for you to listen on, but we'll hear what was going to be the coup de grace of that intervention episode.
Tommy, you know what's good, and it ain't Levia. Levia's not going to get you these wins, but we know you're a fantastic player. You got the voice, you got the looks, you got the arms. Now you need to use those arms to place down cards other than those Shadow Brute. You know what I'm saying? Look, I feel you. She's a great hero, but she's not going to bring you the wins. It's got to be something like Fi. Fi, boring as can be. His weapon says 2 for 3, doesn't it? 2 for 3. Well, if I think about it, actually, 2 for 3. 2 for 6 sounds better, doesn't it? Oh, you know who has a 2 for 6? Oh, I guess Levia has a 2 for 6. Oh, all right, never mind. Just go with Levia, man. You got this.
So that is Mansant coming in hot with the Fi, and in the curveball at the end where he goes, "Screw it, go with Levia."
I gotta say, there's nobody better than Ethan, right? Ethan is
he's a very good sport.
He's a great sport. He gets it. He understands the plight. He is he's a showman. He understands that as well. And that's kind of why we do it, right? We want to make a show. We want to be, because losing to Blood Debt sure sucks, but it's sure is exciting, for the viewer and whoever else, the audience. But I do appreciate that message from Ethan. I'm going to cherish it, to be honest.
As you should. Like I said, we were going to kind of leverage. I was going to try to get Az to talk about Azalea, and then be like, let's talk about Azalea as a ProQuest eligible deck, and it'd be kind of a preview. But we know, is it Hexagore Levia that you're bringing here next?
So this weekend, I don't know when this episode comes out, but this weekend is Battle Hardened, New Jersey. And I'm going to be honest with you, I do not know where I'm headed. It's been a busy holiday season, and Friday is my birthday, so I'm going to be busy all day Friday.
You know what? This might come out then. So happy birthday, Tommy Fresh!
Birthday.
How about that? This is my Jason Voorhees birthday, Friday the 13th. And also shout out to Capolo, same birthday.
Oh wow! Guess they're like twins.
I look just like him, and I sound like him too. But I don't know. So I will say I'm on the fence with Levia. 2 different types. I do get brought in. I guess my gambler spirit definitely gets brought in by the Claws version with Blood Rush Bellow. I do really like Ethan's most recent Hexagore build. That's a lot of fun, and it might be well positioned. And then I am practicing a lot with Reinar, and Reinar is actually a competitive deck, right?
We can. Reinar's great. Yeah, Reinar will win you games. Reinar can win you a tournament. Yeah, go for it. Do you have Berserk? How do you feel about Berserk and Reinar?
I have a love-hate relationship with Berserk because I've seen it at its most powerful and I've seen it at its worst, right? Yeah. I've seen the 30 damage turns, right, that you get with that card, but I've seen it at the 3 damage turns that it was terrible. So
it gives me super Briar vibes right now, and I think everyone knows how I feel about Briar at the moment in Berserk, that the moment you miss on the Berserk, right? The first time you put down like a reckless swing in the discard, you're like, all right. Cool.
I'm also on the. I've been playing a lot of Saber Dagger Bolton. Now this sounds even crazier than Levia, right? But I think the meta is pretty prime for this deck, so long as I dodge the Dromais and the Kanos, right? If I can play normal decks played by normal people, now I'm saying. You could be normal.
Well, look, hey,
but,
are you? So what?
The deck is good.
What makes the dagger? What is different between Saber Bolton and Saber Dagger Bolton?
So Saber Bolton, is your typical combo Bolton with like Lumina Go Boomina. Just got the shirt, by the way, if anybody wants to check that out. Not to like promote some other content creators merch, but the card guys are pretty cool.
Hey, we've had Josh Lau on to the pod, as you have. We love the card guys.
Yeah, he's the best. And so that's your typical go off with Lumina turn, swing a bunch of swords, yada yada yada. Saber Dagger is built almost along the lines of almost like Axis Dory in a way, very defensive, incremental value. The nice thing about Bolton is you get to play all of the good defense reactions you got. Sink Below, Fate Foreseen, Soul
Shield, right?
Soul Shield, and even I play the blue Steelblade Shunts as well. So you get to play that full defensive suite, and I'm actually putting in Oasis Respite as well, which is, just that's a good card.
Sounds like you go fatiguey here.
Yeah, you go a little fatiguey. I mean, you're trying to get maximum value out of your Valiant Dynamos. The nice thing about the dagger gets go again if your Saber gets go again, and then you can follow up with a on hit like Snatch or even one of the cards that goes into Soul when it hits. That gives you another option to give something go again. It is a pretty cool deck, and one thing that I love is hit and run in that deck, because it works on regular attacks.
Yeah.
Right? You can go Saber, Dagger, hit and run, Command and Conquer for 9, which, I mean, it's pretty intense.
Wait, hold on.
I'm telling you, man, read the card. Hit and run works on attacks. It doesn't say weapon attacks. It's just attacks. I'm here to say hit and run's the truth.
What?
Hit and run works on attacks.
I'm actively looking. Why can't I find this? What's happening? Syntax.
Here I am, Tommy Fresh from Fresh and Buds.
Reset.
On the combat chain.
Hit and run.
Dropping some knowledge.
Where is hit
Your
and
next weapon attack this turn gains go again. If you have attacked with a weapon this turn, your next attack this turn gains +1.
Oh, shit.
What the hell?
Command and Conquer for 9. Here you go.
That's
man.
Pablo Pintor chainless level.
That's some hardcore stuff.
Actually, I'm glad you brought that up, Adam. Me and Pablo Pintor are as close to the same level of play that you could really.
Tommy just plays Levia because he wants to level the playing field. Really, is what it is.
I really do. That's why they call her Levia, because it's level the playing field, and you can probably fill in the blanks from there.
Level.
Hit and run's awesome. This Bolton deck's really fun, and it feels a lot like what Arachne is doing, but more efficiently, if that makes sense.
How dare you?
Sorry. I mean, well, that's about to change, obviously.
I think Arachne, I will say, in Arachne's defense, I know there are some people who trash it, but its bad matchups are getting better, and I point to Dromai as a very polarizing matchup, and in the tight knit Arachne circles there, we have gotten very close, and I'd like to say that it might not be favorable, and it might be a 50-50 at this point, but it is not the 90-10 that it was like out the gate. It is a winnable matchup for Arachne, and you just have to fatigue them in the correct way. But you have to play right. You have to have Arcane Barrier. You have to have your poppers. You have to be able to clear out their Ash Wings, and you have to play as almost like as efficiently as possible. The moment the secret is, it's not a secret, but like you don't care about their life. Life totals are meaningless in this game. The moment that you focus on anything else other than their board state, you're losing. There is no way to catch up when you do that. So if there is anything on the board that you can clear out, you get rid of it, and you don't focus your attacks on them. And
makes sense. Yeah.
On the contract side, Arachne's ability still hits. So you have a bunch of 0-for-4s. They clear out most of the dragons. Okay, the contract on hit doesn't work, but the Arachne ability still comes into play. So you're able to pitch stack for them in that process. So that game in itself is going to drag out as you go, but as Arachne, if you pitch stack their defense reactions onto the bottom and just fill them with unplayable cards, if you get to that end game state, there's no more game actions for them at that point, and then you just run them out when it happens. But it's doable. All right, Mara, you listening? It's doable as Arachne. Okay. So ProQuest free environment over here, so not a lot of pressure, but I've been playing I'm obviously playing a lot of Arachne. We have the deck tech video up with Ollie Cornish, so check that out if you haven't. It's picking up a lot of steam, but he's got the archetype, he's got the optimal fatigue archetype, and I was trying like a mid-range type deal, a lot of nimbleism, and nimbleisms come to fight and things like E-strikes, which are valid, but it's not quite there, and you sacrifice just enough on those bad, like you can't win Dromai with those cards, and that becomes the problem there. And Dromai isn't like the be all end all, but you don't have enough real estate to run the mid range, so you run this fatigue package when you do it. So I've been playing a lot of Arachne, a lot of Dorinthia. I've had a very spirited discussion about Dorinthia before we got on the air with Sean. And obviously Phi and Bravo I feel like I got them all sleeved in the same.
All sleeved
in the same. I got these red dragon sleeves. They're Fury. Oh my god, they're so pretty. Dragon Shield, sponsor us, because I just want, you can pay us in product. Just give me these sleeves. I don't care. They're Dragon so good. Shield.
Hey, yeah. Listen, you want me to get it? Dragon Shield?
Get Dragon Shield.
If you're listening, and we know that you are, give these guys a little sponsorship. They're really doing the Lord's work out here, and and closing the combat. Oh wait, that's not yet. That's a little bit later. Wait, I'm sorry, guys, but it's interesting. You mentioned Dromai being such a problem, and you also say that it's not the end all be all, but this is ProQuest, right? This is ProQuest season. This is not callings. This is not a Pro Tour. This is a meta where people are going to play what they want to play, and people want to play Dromai. Like I think people really underestimate how big of a thing Dromai was for the game, right? Dragons. Yeah. I have a local that plays Magic, and he's like, I play Flesh and Blood now because you can actually play dragons in a competitive environment. Because I mean, if you don't know, Magic dragons suck. But for the most part, there are some examples.
Oh, you're right.
They so great. I mean, they cost a lot and they do big things and it's a lot of fun. And you can do it in like EDH or whatever, but you can't do it in like your local modern or standard tournament. And I don't think people play standard anymore. But
there was like 3 weeks in Cons Standard with Cons Fate Reforged, and I can't think of the third set. but there was like a Rakdos aggro Dragons deck that worked. And
I do remember.
Thunderbreak Regent.
Oh yeah.
I can't think of the Rakdos dragon that flies that gives everything +1/+0. It's been a hot minute here. Kolagon, Thunderbreak Regent. There was a dragon discount card, and like in it, and it worked. It was like just a dragon aggro. It topped out at like 5. And that's the problem with dragons. You play a bunch of 6 to 8 drops, and this one had like a 3-drop dragon, a 4-drop, and 5 drops, and just fucking went. It was so good.
Well, listen, Pat. I mean, this is a Flesh and Blood podcast.
Sorry.
None of those terms mean anything to me anymore. I'm a one game man.
None of those terms actually do mean anything to me.
Yeah. I'm looking over at Adam. It's going right over his head.
Tommy,
I know like recent Magic, but
you bring up a good point. You may be a one game pony here, but we are not. Adam, very recently we launched a new podcast and content space here over at the Combat Chain family of TCGs. After Turn 6, our first episode of the Marvel Snap podcast premiered last week. Tell us more about Marvel Snap, Adam.
I thought you were going to ask me. I was
Tommy, how do you feel about Marvel Snap?
Let's put you on the spot.
After Turn 6 action happening.
Yeah, it's been a blast so far. It's Marvel Snap is great because it's the exact there in some ways I've felt like there's overlap between it and Flesh and Blood. Like my experience playing Flesh and Blood has definitely made me a much better snapper, but in a lot of ways, like Flesh and Blood is this long drawn out, play to your out experience, and Snap is quick, get in, get out. I'm not going to win this game. I'm going to retreat, move on to the next one. But there's still a lot of strategy to it, and it's been a blast to dive into. In part, where I had to make, I didn't have to. I chose to make this big sales pitch to Pat when I first decided I wanted to do Snap content, where I was like, you know what? I think. Like, part of me thinks this is going to be a huge boon for Flesh and Blood, actually. There's so many people with Flesh and Blood who, like, it's their first TCG. They didn't come from Magic or something like that. And there's something about Flesh and Blood that appeals to a different audience than the Magic audience. But I think Snap can be a gateway TCG in a way, if you will, where like a lot of people are going to get drawn into Snap because it's not because of it being a card game, but because of the Marvel IP. And how many people out there does, like, probably card gaming would appeal to them, but they've never crossed that path. It's never crossed their path. And I think Snap can be a huge way for us to help bring people over to the Flesh and Blood community. So as much fun as I'm having with Snap, like there is a little bit of a nefarious plan to try to grow the Flesh and Blood community from outside sources, and I hope it works.
I will say right now that if Flesh and Blood reskinned entirely of Marvel characters, I would be even more in right now. If I could, I would be further. I would be, however further in I could go, I would get there. Well, wherever the hilt is.
Imagine if Flesh and Blood was exactly like mechanically exactly the same thing it is right now, except you got to choose a hero from Marvel instead.
Yeah,
the player base would be
Deadpool was Chain. Yeah, so many people.
You could the player base would probably actually be bigger than Magic's at this point, I bet you, because it's such a good game, but it also has that appeal from outside. Like Flesh and Blood's biggest uphill battle at this point is the fact that it's an unknown IP. Like, once you get someone in, they're in, but it's getting people to buy in who've never heard of it, it's like, why should I care? And I think, like, this is a cool, like, yes, doing Marvel Snap content on its own is fun, but a big reason I wanted to dive into it was for the reason of, I think it's only going to benefit the Flesh and Blood community down the road.
Absolutely. If only Tommy liked good things that made people happy, like Marvel and heroism and heroics and saving the world. But unfortunately, it's not his cup of tea. What is his cup of tea, though?
I do have to say this because Pat, your jaw's gonna drop. The Marvel movies do nothing for me.
Oh God! You know what? Fuck you both. Okay.
Hey, listen. If there's some DC snap that comes out, I'm all over it. Don't worry about it. You know.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, if I see one more content creator say they're going to start doing one more Flesh and Blood content creator say they're going to start doing Disney Lorcana content, which I know you all are thinking about. I'm going to put up
that's all Pat. That is, I have nothing to do with that. Pat asked me if we could do it under the Combat Chain brand, and I was like, you know what? Yes, it makes sense for the purpose of furthering the brand, but beyond that,
there are look, Disney Lorcana may or may not be, something good, but you know what? We talk about that IP. Hey, it's going to happen. And
Pat, you get a pass. You have children.
That's right. That's right. And
I'll leave it at that.
My wife loves Disney, and I love TCGs. So it's a perfect storm here. So we're truthfully, we need more information about it, but we're ready. We're ready to go here.
I thought it's already out.
It's no. Fall 2023.
Oh,
so
how do some people have cards already then?
So they premiered the cards in D23 Expo last year in 2022. So they had a limited edition package that was only available in person. You had to physically pick it up at the expo. And it was a limited supply, and those went immediately to eBay and went skyrocketed.
I understand now.
So the game it's made by Ravensburger, which is a very reputable company. And it comes out in fall of 2023. And the Lorcana Twitter account said that we won't have to wait much longer here for some more in-depth information. But yeah, so it's not ready yet, but it's coming soon. Here is the Combat Chain Presents a Disney Lorcana podcast with the Shaws. So it's happening at some point.
It's got a ring to it with the Shaws. That's got a nice ring to it.
We know how you think I know how to talk. Wait till she gets on here. All right, let's get this is completely derailed. It's like that movie Bullet Train. Have you seen Bullet Train?
I have.
As it derails
Brad
again.
Pitt?
Viewers or listeners at home, how many drinks have you had as Pat derails once again?
This is the consequence of Tommy coming
Everybody's
on.
as drunk as Tommy now.
I was thinking about this as you were coming on. I have not given you the 60 minutes treatment, and someday soon we're gonna do that. We're gonna sit down and you're my security blanket. I've had a rough week, and you were coming on, and I had some plans, but you make me feel comfortable and homey and warm in my heart when you're here.
I make you feel homey because we are homies.
We're homies. Yeah. No, but you're here at the right time for this old guy. So you get loose goose, Pat. When Zach Bunn was here, it was like, we gotta focus on the right questions. I don't have any questions for you. We just have conversation. That's all. Speaking of conversation,
second or third time on now, I can't remember.
Third, I think
you're
it's
the first third timer.
3-timer.
I don't. Is it 3 times? It was one of those times when we did the Goliath Gauntlet.
No,
we do have another one of those coming up though.
We do have Goliath Gauntlet 2 is supposed to come out. Did they announce? I know Flake put out that it's like ready to go. Did they put the roster out?
I don't know. I know Mara's doing it because she just tagged me in something in the Buds Discord. So that's as public information as it can be. So, but that should be fun.
I'm Googling.
Good for Mara.
Oh, here it is. The bracket is here. It is 1 hour ago. All right. Let's see here. We have, I don't know who this is. Ziemba. Anybody? Ziemba? Does that ring a bell?
Where did you find the bracket? Let me see the spelling.
983 Media.
983.
Gonna be I gotta go on Flake's Patreon. So Mara's facing whoever Ziemba is. I don't know who that is. I don't even know. I don't recognize that
Polish
flag. Is it
white on top, red on bottom? You got Tarek versus Rakowski, Hamilton versus Rogers.
Just getting it right out.
Budinsky.
Budinsky.
Oh, Peter?
Yeah, versus Hayden Dale. Josh Lau, Viet Pham.
Mm-hmm. That's Nathan Crawford
versus Iali.
Yeah, that's Briarmane's right there.
Brody Spurlock versus the tall Timmy. Let's go. All right.
I see.
Majin Bay versus DM Armada.
Oh, guaranteed a new. No, I guess not. Majin Bay would have to beat him, but that's the championship rematch, right?
That's it. It is. That it's interesting that they have Hamilton and Rakowski meeting at the semis on the east or the west side or whatever you called it last time. But
Capolo put his name in and picked himself to win the whole thing.
Listen, Capolo out there. We know you're listening. He's probably not listening, but if we mention his name, he'll chime in. But Capolo, hey, listen, we have the best of the best on this bracket, and listen. Yeah,
we're gonna have to do another one here. Excellent. Though I don't, or we might have to find a couple more people to fill the gaps. I don't think Abby and Jordan would want to come back.
They might, but we can always get Charmer. He's the new.
Yeah. I've never interacted with Charmer.
He'll be on Fresh and Bloods this month.
Excellent. It's
a good dude.
When does Rakowski's episode come out?
If this comes out Friday, it'll be out yesterday.
Awesome. All right. The episode was great. Awesome. Thanks for bringing it out.
I mean, if I could use this time to promote my podcast, I guess it's an exciting month of January. We've been naming it Danuary. We had my cousin Dan on, where I tried to pitch the game to him, and then we have Daniel Rakowski, and then we have Carolina, who is a dancer, and then then we have Charmer on, and I forget what the hell.
Nice and limbered up with that stretch there, huh? Did you?
Yeah. Well, you can blame Gary for that one, and then Charmer was I don't know, a dang cool guy or something like that. But January's in full swing right now.
Excellent. Yeah, Caroline is a firecracker. She's fun to have on.
That was a fun episode, yeah, for sure.
That was a good one. That's another one that was like off the rails, but not, and it was that kind of fun little chaos is always nice to have. All right, speaking of fun chaos, in the news today, Outsiders was announced and released. And before we talk about Outsiders, because we're going to bury the lead like everyone else did, Pro Tour 3 was announced as well. And we don't have a venue, but we have a date and we have a location. Pro Tour 3 is going to be played in Baltimore, Maryland, and it is the weekend of April 27th through the 30th. 200,000 USD in cash prizes on the line. Go to FABTCG.com/Pro Tour for more information.
You know what part of the competition is for Baltimore?
What?
Once you get the check for the 200,000.
Get out of the building in
getting out of the building alive, yeah.
Oh God.
All right.
Okay, so that was why I interrupted. It was like, how dark are we going with this one? Like, I can cut that out.
Hey, look. Baltimore is a very interesting place to do anything. The Ravens play there, which means Ray Lewis hung out there and he murdered people, and he's a hero. He's a hero that we know of. But he's a hero in that town. The Wire is based out of Baltimore. Is The Sopranos based out of Baltimore?
What are you talking about? New Jersey.
I haven't seen Baltimore. I haven't seen The Sopranos either. I don't know.
But the Wire was not exaggerating anything about that city. So yeah, look.
Do we want to air this part of this conversation?
Sure, why not?
If we're trying to make friends with LSS.
Do you want me to chime in as someone who's been to Baltimore?
Yeah, I've never been to Baltimore. I've only been to The Wire.
It's not that bad, and my bet is it will probably be in a pretty nice part of Baltimore. There's nice parts. There's a whole region called the Inner Harbor. I don't know. It's where they get all the crabs. They say the only thing they got in Maryland is crabs and football, and it's pretty
protected
close.
by a moat. Is that why the Inner Harbor? It's got a drawbridge.
They have a
riffraff.
I think a stellar aquarium. I've been there.
Yeah. All right.
But they just had a Battle Hardened there not too long ago, and I imagine it'll be at a similar venue. And yeah, I think we'll be fine, folks.
All right, you heard it here first. Tommy has been to Baltimore and has not been stabbed.
Yeah. I have the correct. I left Baltimore with the correct amount of holes in my body. And
all that matters. All that matters.
I'm sure it'll be a fine pro tour.
You know what? That flyer came out, and my flight was booked 5 minutes later. I got a ping on my phone, and my wife was near me, and I went, "What are we doing that weekend?" And she goes, "Nothing. Here, we've got travel going up to the 25th," and she's like, "You're open." I was like, "Baltimore. Book me. Let's go." And we did. Got a cheap flight. So going down there. I have no possible way to qualify for the Pro Tour in any capacity. So I will not be in the I can't even. There's not even enough to grind XP like armories these days to actually get into to grind. So, and my ProQuest season is already shut down. So going for the weekend festivities more than anything else. Going to play the calling. But I will be there. How about you guys? What do you think? Pro Tour, Baltimore.
Yeah, I
will
be there. Right, even if I don't qualify, I'm going. Yeah.
All right, we'll get to see each other again.
Very nice. It's a 3-hour drive for me, so I will be there no matter what. So it's going to be.
That's nice.
I think it'll be a lot of fun. I think it feels bad. I feel like I think Hayden Dale had just posted 3 flights for him to get there, and I told him it was probably less if he just goes to Newark and I pick him up. But
Maryland is a tough place to get to, as it is.
Unless you go to DC, yeah. But hey,
it is a 10-hour drive or a 90-minute flight, and I chose the 90-minute flight. So
I haven't looked at flights yet, but I've already broached the possibility of road tripping from Montreal with some of the Combat Chain team. Because a good chunk of us are for some reason based in Montreal.
Hey, you rascally Canadians and your flesh and blood. We also have on top of the Pro Tour announcement that was tied into the Outsiders release, which is why this is the main topic of the pod. We have information about the new. We did it. We got there. Outsiders has been announced, and we're gonna go. We're gonna real time the reactions here. It's not quite real time, but it's kind of like when Lil Dicky freestyles on Sway. We know it's kind of written, but we're gonna get our reactions here. Outsiders is a standalone booster set that takes you down into the pits, a sprawling web of underground caverns and canals, home to all manner of backstabbing and skullduggery. They really love skullduggery there in the pits. Outsiders is the first Flesh and Blood draftable set to feature multiple heroes within each class, making it the most dynamic draft experience yet. You're drafting Assassin, but are you Arachne or Azuri? You're drafting Ranger, but are you Azalea or Riptide? You're drafting Ninja, but are you Katsu or Benji? Each hero has their own strengths, strategies, and card preferences. You'll find yourself wanting to draft Outsiders again and again to explore the depth the pits has to offer. Now, first things first, heroes. A mix of new heroes and returning fan favorites are featured in Outsiders. New heroes include Azuri, a spider operative assassin and ringleader of a band of misfits that includes a new version of Arachne, and Riptide, a trap-based ranger. Now, on the main page here, there is the illustrations for Arachne, Azuri, and Riptide. And Arachne has got a mask, and they're definitely cleaving some people. There's bodies all over the place. They left the light on, and it looks like skin is on that lamp, but very, brutal assassin type here. Azuri is wearing Black Tech Whisperers and a very nice cloak, it looks like, but has Riptide and Arachne Huntsman, complete with the Mask of Perdition mask chilling behind them. And then you get to Riptide, a trap-based ranger. Riptide looks like he's about 300 pounds. Has a little too much HGH. He's got heads around his belt. He looks like he's smoking a fog cigar, and he's got a body and hook. It doesn't strike me as I guess your typical ranger, as opposed to Azalea, who is a lithe rogue-like archer. And when you say ranger, you're like, oh yeah, that's what I think of here. So Adam, what makes Riptide the brute fisherman actually a ranger? And yeah, what the hell is happening with Riptide here?
Well, I'm glad you asked me, Pat. I've thought a lot about this, and the reality is to truly be a ranger, it doesn't necessarily mean you're wielding a bow and arrow. It means you're on the range. And when you think of things that include ranging, we can think of setting traps and such. And if we link that to fishermen, well, what are fishermen, especially like crab and lobster, and the as we say in French, which translates poorly to English, the fruits of the sea. We can see that fishermen use traps, and therefore, a fisherman is a ranger.
You make a sound argument. Look, hot dogs are tacos, fishermen are rangers. It's all the same type of argument here. Tommy, the introduction of 3 new heroes, none of which are brute, even though Riptide is clearly a dock-working brute. Tell me your first impressions here on the new heroes.
So the new heroes I'm actually a fan of, right? It is kind of a slap in the face that we get this hulking ranger, but I can remove myself from my own kind of dispositions here, right? I look at this as an example of a way to expand the ranger class, because I'll be honest with you, the ranger class kind of sucks, and but
the ranger class does not suck. The ranger class is misunderstood.
It's misunderstood, and I think it's bad. I think it's a little too narrow, right? I think the arrow mechanic is cool and makes a ton of sense for ranger, but it is also a little bit too narrow for the class moving forward. Now, if you look, so I'm looking at this Outsiders like landing page that we got today. There is art, like that kind of abstract watercolor art that they do for the different things, in lore. We have Arachne. What is the new? Is it
Arachne Solitary?
Azuri. Arachne, Azuri, yep. And Riptide walking away from an explosion like badasses in a action movie. And you see Riptide's got some big bow on his back, right? That does excite me as some kind of big bow that, okay, hear me out, fellas. He is going to have arrow cards with they're going to be like arrow cards, but it's going to be harpoons because he's a fisherman.
Oh, yeah.
And they're going to be a little bit more powerful. It's going to feel, I think, Riptide. This is crazy. I know Riptide's going to feel like a brute ranger without the brute class type. If that makes sense. I think it's going to have like big arrows that, you know, maybe want aim counters for some extra
It doesn't.
nonsense.
He's holding a massive compound bow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And in
I
his,
stand corrected. He's just
in his
a ranger.
character
He's
art, he has like these giant hooks and stuff like that. I am, as much as I wanted a brute in this set, I fully support Riptide and whatever's going on with him. My one gripe here is the introduction of Ninja as the third draftable class. We just had Ninja. And as much as I love Katsu and drafting Katsu, and it would be interesting to draft decks with Benji, I almost would have said, what if Reinar and KO showed up instead? Right? The ninjas, or I guess in this case, the ninjas are the outsiders, right? They showed up in the pits as outsiders, and at least that's what it seems like the story's going. So I'm interested to see where they go with it. You know, there's a lot of things that make sense between assassin and ninja, and I imagine assassin's going to be the common denominator here for the hybrid cards that I'm sure you're going to get to. And I don't know. It's interesting. I'm a little bummed that there's no brute. It's weird that they added ninja again, but maybe it's because assassin has so much to do with kind of both of those classes, both ranger and ninja.
Well, both brute and mech, right? I mean, there was a lot of anticipation for a dash appearance, or at least some kind of dash adjacent mechanologist, and nothing.
Yeah, I'm super surprised. There's like, given that the pits are right below metrics, and even the, what is it, that the character we see on, what's the new card, Wreck Havoc?
Wrecking Havoc, Wreck Havoc.
Yeah, like that. Yeah, right. So mechy.
Very mechy, right? Yeah.
Mechy, is that a word?
It is now. It's in the lexicon of the combat chain.
Mech-like.
We do. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that while that does look mechy, and like if you look at like Black Tech Whisperers, even that looks like mechanologist-esque.
You know, I've heard that before. And I guess I hadn't looked at it like that before, but I guess it does kind of like powered up boots kind of deal.
Even something like Tri-Shot looks mechanologist-esque, right? You know, for Azalea. I think it's just the fact that the pits, like you said, Adam, the pits is below the metrics. You get a lot of leftover stuff that scavengers have to make use of. And I personally didn't think there was going to be a mech in the set, just because I think they want to save that for the metrics set, right? Like, you know, because Dash has been somewhat viable ever since she's been printed, and even more so with these.
Got some dynasty cards.
These dynasty cards. So I think that. Yeah, I mean, Brute was the big one because there was a lot of stuff in the pits from the lore page that sound brutish, and then the other hero we haven't gotten in a while, as well as Warrior, though a Warrior probably didn't make a whole lot of sense. So
that is true. So to continue on with the text here, however, not all things start out as they become, and the past always seems to have a way of infiltrating our present. A duo of wandering Mysterian ninjas threaten to trigger memories of Azuri's origin, a time and place where she didn't fit in, where she felt like, dun-dun, an outsider. So we get into the actual character cards here, and the new heroes have their intellect in their life, but the text boxes are blanked out with the Outsiders logo. So we do have Azalea available, Riptide, Lurker of the Deep, and Riptide as a young hero. The adult hero starts at 38 life and Riptide at 19. And if we go to Arachne Solitary Confinement, young hero starts at 19 life. Azuri Switchblade does have, as an adult hero, starts at 40 life. And of course, we know Benji starts at 17. A lot of that manipulation of life total happening there. What's our first reads here on the slightly ticked down life totals of the Ranger and Young Assassin?
Dem traps must be real strong.
It is something, right? I mean, there is something to be said that Azalea, as she stands with the card pool that is there, has some very disruptive potential there. So if you're gonna add, I guess, even more, because the traps do have, they have a place, not a great place at the moment, but if you're about to make them really, really good, you're gonna change you're gonna introduce a new style of gameplay, and if people aren't prepared for that, Riptide can likely do a lot of weird damage, and that 38 makes it a little more palatable.
Yeah. One thing I'm wondering is, how does Ninja actually fit into all this? Is Katsu just wandering into town and he's the outsider, or is there a deeper story there? Low key, I kind of feel like with the Ninja involvement, LSS really needs to make it not cheesy.
They do have. So you talk about, what is their involvement there? Important to note is the young Azuri has the Mysteria framework on the hero card. So the same as Katsu and Benji. So I think the implication there is perhaps Azuri is a exiled ninja of some sort, a shogun, if you will.
Ooh. Okay. And I do think I'm not a big lore guy. I think I recall there being something about like Katsu within him being Katsu the Wanderer. His whole gist is he wanders around challenging people and something like that. So I guess that kind of makes sense. That ties him to maybe Uzuri in some way. But I think part of me is did LSS just feel oh, we need something to balance the set. Ninjas works well. Let's throw a ninja. Okay. And how do we rate that in thematically, after the fact? I'm worried that that's the case.
Yeah, you're worried that it's not a top-down approach, right? You're worried that they're well, we need this. How do we make it work, right?
Yeah.
And I will say one thing that LSS, in my opinion, has always done well is that kind of top-down approach. And it's interesting that they're playing with, I'm no lore expert either. That's why I always have Dead Summer Art on my podcast to help me with it. But I kind of like the idea of a young hero with the different arts, or a different card thing, whatever. What do they call it? Border?
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
I'll figure it out.
The perimeter of the card. Yeah, it's border generally.
And then it's switching. Now, the one thing that I'm very interested about, right, is you look at Azuri Switchblade's main adult hero art, and you got Arachne in it with her. And what it seems like Riptide or some other brute-looking fella, or
yeah, it does seem like, right, Arachne and Riptide are allied in some way to Azuri Switchblade, but there is the implication being that Azuri started as a young potential assassin in Mysteria. Even her card art, right, there's cherry blossoms, there's a unique architecture to the building behind her, there's that bridge, you get that wind based, the waterfalls that are very Mysteria driven there. Katsu, I'm interested on the timeline as well. Katsu's the leader of the ninja clan there, and goes off when we first meet these heroes, Katsu's clan is fighting off this mysterious dark fog entity force that's trying to that's slowly taking over, and they can't handle it with the power that the clan holds by themselves. So Katsu wanders to go find allies. So he's on a road to get help, right? We have Dorinthia and Bolton fighting for Solana, and in Morlock Hill, right? The Demonastery comes out, the cloaked figure steals Minerva, and Dorinthia talks about kind of sounding the alarm and gathering forces. Here, meanwhile, right, Cheyenne sends Icelander to Volcor to talk to the Emperor. Now Arachne kills the Emperor. Icelander was there as like an emissary of Solana in a way to try and recruit people to it. We have Dromai, who's kind of like a rogue at this point, and Bai, also a rogue at this point. Volcor is in all sorts of upheaval right now, but in some way, Azuri looks like a person from Katsu's past. I don't know how Benji fits into any of this. Benji's just like the
way more than I do already.
The plucky sidekick. It's just the scrappy do to Katsu's Scooby at this point. That's all. It's like, oh, they're both here. But clearly Azuri had an evolution that brought her to the pits and rose to the ranks as a young girl is wont to do when she's cast aside into exile. She rises to power and is clearly the leader of whatever gang in the pits this is. So that's how you change the border like that. Start in Mysteria, end up in the pits.
Yeah, I got a question for you all. You look at this art for Arachne solitary confinement. Is that not just a Bionicle? That's a Bionicle mask, fella. Yeah, I don't know.
It
like
might be. There's a
Lego
lot of
Bionicle.
What? The Lego Bionicle.
There's a lot of bodies. There's a lot of blood.
Oh, Jesus! Yeah, it is totally.
I think there's skin on the lamp. There's lamp. There's electronics. There's electricity here. Arachne does look like it's carrying a spider's bite, though. One of them is a straight blade. The other seems a little more curved. But there's definitely ribs being exposed into that body. Arachne looks like they got caught at something, like like someone just walked in on them mid slice, and they're just stopping what they're doing and looking up and just making eye contact. So whoever drew this is about to back out of the room and close the door quietly and hope they don't notice.
So I have a question for you two.
Yeah,
if I'm allowed.
Go ahead.
So we're looking at. Thank you. We're looking at these heroes, right? Mm-hmm. We don't have their text box for the new ones like Riptide. I'm looking at Riptide right now. Revealed preview season March 4th. Outsiders. FABTCG.com. And this is Ranger Hero. Do you think, now the one thing that's been missing from all of this announcement has been a talent. Do you think they are withholding that talent?
Nope.
Or is this just nobody in the pits is talented?
No, I think we had when you came on, I think we were in the midst of a pretty passionate conversation about a lot of things, but that was one of them, right? So the question becomes, do you take this at face value, right? And if you don't, are you expecting a swerve of some type? Are you expecting them to be pulling the wool over our head, so to speak? In this instance, are they deliberately formatting this in a way where you are led to believe that these are talentless heroes, and they're going to swerve and add a talent of some type here. I think we're gonna get what we get. If there's anything there, the hero text might have something akin to like elemental fuse ability. Like you don't have to be necessarily talented in that respect, as long as you have like you can reference a card type there, and we might see like, you know, that's just hero stuff at that point. You can like Katsu finds combo cards, you know, so talent, no, you're not going to get, you know, skullduggery heroes that focus on skullduggery cards, but you might have the Riptide might have traps that are like skullduggery traps, and you know, whenever a skullduggery trap enters the arena, Riptide, you know, does a thing. And I think that's good enough. I think that answers a lot of potential draft problems by not having, you were not restricted except by class here. They have multiple rangers, so as opposed to having you're gonna, instead of having 3 heroes and having to like overfill with generics here, you're gonna have a ton of class cards to choose from, and those class cards are gonna vary so like wildly from one another that you're gonna be able to build even within right that class framework, where Azalea is going to be this you know, Azalea is Azalea. You're going to draft arrow attacks, you're going to do a thing there. Riptide is going to be trap based, so you can use traps in Azalea, right, and you can use arrows in Riptide, but their strengths are going to be 2 different things, so you already have 2 different archetypes there. And I think even I know, Tommy, you had mentioned either here or elsewhere that the potential for multiple weapons here. I wouldn't be shocked to see Death Dealer and a new weapon that is a ranger weapon that is meant for right Riptide and would be like their signature weapon for living legend purposes there. But you know, you would likely be able to use that weapon for both heroes as well. So you're gonna have a lot of I think you're going to have a lot of flexibility and depth potential when it comes to how you're drafting here. I do like, it makes sense with the Ranger and it makes sense with the Assassin. The Azuri and the Ninja thing is, I think, what throws this kind of through a loop, because the Ninja does feel, lore-wise, they're clearly putting that in there. And, you know, maybe they have Azuri built up to be something, so you know, Katsu and Benji are in here. It's interesting to draft Benji for the first time, but even then, right, you're gonna have combo cards and likely Benji cards at that point. That's what feels kind of like a placeholder more than anything. I don't know if it was like a fail safe, kind of a security blanket. We need 3 heroes, let's introduce more combo, I guess. You know, I don't know if they just drew something out of a hat and said ninja. All right, 3rd class is ninja. But I definitely feel like the draft experience is going to be plenty deep, and we're not going to be generic reliant on in those drafts.
Something worth noting here is that there's a blitz deck for each young hero that will be able to be played, which means that that means you would hope that means there's cards in this set that support like a whole blitz deck for each hero, like, which you would expect. There's probably going to be some kind of back and forth, or not back and forth, like some modality, I don't know, modal cards, right, for Katsu and Benji, right? That sure, it works in Katsu, but it also works great in Benji, and I think that would probably be the key for this limited set to be like a real hit.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see how far they take the return of Katsu and Benji. Like, are we going to see surging strikes and whelming gust waves, or are we going to see entirely new combo lines here and take like kind of another crack at it?
One thing that came to mind for me as I started, because one thing that really stuck out to me about Uprising Draft is the introduction of a token playable that goes beyond the cracked bauble. And I'm wondering if they take that even a step further, because like now in Dynasty we saw the Crouching Tiger, which makes a lot of, like, if that could like sneak in the Crouching Tiger as a token playable generic-esque thing for Ninja, and then add in a token playable arrow that like maybe it's a 0-for-1, like it's not great, but it's something you can interact with to make like more power, like you can buff it, or like maybe it's, if it has an aim counter it gets +3, I don't know, like the one, like the fact that they're including Ninja in this, with the fact that we just saw a token playable get introduced in Dynasty, makes me think that they're really going to delve into the token playable, something that's accessible if you don't draft it, a lot more in draft. And if that is the case, like that on its own, along with the hybrid cards, it makes me think this is going to be an incredible draft set.
Be interested to see if they do something like a Tiger or a Flame with Benji around, where it'd be almost like an auto include right there if you have like a, you know, a one go again type of,
like Crouching Tiger already exists, so it only makes sense that
right
that gets that is the Ninja token playable, and then and then it's what else exists in the set to buff
there
it.
is there's one hero where that like fits like perfectly with, right, you know, like if you could fit up to 3, let's say if you had 3 flames that were just like not draconic, right, they're just there, you just have insert one you know 1/0 token go again things, right, it would make the most sense ever to just throw those 3 into Benji, because you have those, and is where it fits best. It's an unblockable card, right, you've in 3 of them, so whatever synergies you have on top of everything else, you have, you know, you've got Benji's hero text. I'm just saying that could present a complication in that end about like you already start with 3 cards for Benji, right, in this hypothetical situation, if they treated it like a Flame, right, where you can have up to 3 you know 3 copies or something like those lines. You just already have those cards, like you would just count them, right, and you already have to draft less for that one hero versus others. Well, that's just where I go. I'm just pissing on everybody's steering.
You think of Crouching Tiger for Benji, like, yeah, the synergy makes sense there. I think of it for Katsu right away. If they think to include, like, whether Mask of Momentum could see a reprint in this set, and I don't think we would see that, but where my mind goes is Mask of Momentum-esque effects, or like Take the Tempo type things. Like we've seen Take the Tempo, that one cares about like multiple chain links unblocked. And Crouching Tiger tends, like, it does feel very thematically Ninja-y, and it goes down a realm of lots of small pokes, and I think, like, yeah, the Crouching Tigers, I think I could see them having, if that's the direction they go in, I could see them having synergy with all the decks in that sense, like all the Ninja.
It'd be interesting to see. Benji gives me like 5 vibes as it is, like how you build the deck, right? You're gonna have low to the ground, you know, two attacks until the cows come home type of deck, and go really try to like tempo heavy with some sort of big flourishy finish there, and we just did that, you know. So I mean I'm very interested to see how they treat Ninja here. I think the world is their oyster for Ranger and Assassin. I get the feeling that we will be talking about those 2 classes for the rest of the year, you know, probably. I don't know how they go about Ninja in a way that they haven't done, and doesn't feel like it's recycling, I guess.
Well, the question is this the new format, right? Introduce 2 new heroes, and then kind of supplement an old non-talented hero, right? While like enhancing a draft format, a limited format.
Mhm.
I guess it all depends on how Outsiders goes, but that seems like a kind of a oddly smart thing to do, right? Because I think we can all agree, or I would hope we can all agree, that while Dynasty is really cool, it is, and like supplemental sets in general are very cool. They don't always. Sometimes they supplement older heroes too much. And sometimes they don't do jack shit. It just is what it is. It's so hard, and as we get more heroes and more sets, it's going to be impossible for a supplemental set to really accomplish what it did in like Crucible. I think Crucible is like our best, example of what you can get from a supplemental set. So if maybe they are starting to realize that, right? And they're like, okay, well, we can start to just supplement through our main draftable sets. This seems like a way you can do it. Sure, it's a little bit tedious that you have to do it one hero at a time, but if we get to the point where we're doing 3 draftable sets a year, it's not as bad.
No, and I like I feel like they open the door here for potential. Arachne is a young only hero. You're only gonna draft like Arachne, right? That's you're not gonna you don't have an adult to build, so you have an Arachne draftable with no adult counterpart here. So Arachne the Huntsman is your adult Arachne hero coming through. Is that the shiny? Is that
no? It's just what
Oh man, I can't even get to an armory right now. It's just my life is so complicated. Dagan just posted he's got 4 of them. I might DM him and get one. We'll see. Let's keep going though. I think one of the interesting parts about Outsiders is the introduction to hybrid cards. Outsiders introduces new hybrid cards that can be played by 2 different classes. Hybrid cards enhance the drafting experience, allowing you to keep your options open. The 3 most iconic hybrid cards from Outsiders appear as Marvel research notes that perhaps hold the answers to the origin of the 3 deadly diseases that plague the inhabitants of the pits. And so we're going to take a quick look at the first hybrid card introduced. The Marvel it really looks incredible here, but we have the Codex of Frailty. It is a yellow pitch 0 cost assassin/ranger action. Majestic 2-block. Each hero puts an attack action card from their graveyard face down into their arsenal. Each hero that does discards a card. Create a ponder token under your control and a frailty token under each opponent's control. Go again. That is a lot to unpack.
Well, I think first thing that I see here is, well, we don't know what frailty is. I mean, well, in terms of a token, we know what frailty is a thing. But
as an abstract concept of life.
And we don't know what the new Rangers do and the new Assassins do, right? But we do know what old Rangers do and not so old Assassins do. And I look at Codex of Frailty, and I think this, I would imagine this is great in most Ranger decks currently, right? Get back your what the hell is it called? Endless Arrow.
Red in the Ledger, right? Endless Arrow.
Get back your red Blizzard Bolt. You play this at the end of your turn, so like,
oh man,
so you don't have to discard and
elemental heroes too. Yeah. This opens up a lot of doors, and I think it's a really sweet way to kind of do the dual class thing, Mm-hmm. I think this is one of those things I think that we're potentially missing from early draft sets that make this closer to the complexity of like a Magic limited set where, right, cards, you could draft a card that had many uses in many different ways, and now you have an untalented hybrid card that can be used in multiple, and not only, right, so you have two different rangers, two different assassins, right? So now this now goes into 4 different different heroes now, and I think that kind of openness is what we're really we've been really kind of craving. I think,
and
what
thinking
drafters tell me.
Yeah, they're taking the idea that they did in Tails, right, and pushing it a little bit further, right? Because I guess technically an ice card is a Ranger Guardian card in Tails, but this expands beyond the draft set, beyond the limited environment, and we'll see. I mean, this could be so much that it really buffs up a lot of different decks based on what they print, but it's very exciting.
And the assumption here is that it's not just Assassin Ranger, so we're going to see a Ranger Ninja card, a Ninja Assassin card. Great movie, by the way, if you haven't seen it. Ninja Assassin. Oh, fantastic. And a Ninja.
No, that's all 3.
Yeah, right. Assassin Ranger, Ranger Ninja, Ninja Assassin. Yeah. So you're gonna get 2
at least for the Marvels, right? Because this Marvel does look beautiful. It sounds like they're gonna do more in each rarity.
It does. This says the 3 most iconic hybrids from Outsiders will appear as Marvel research notes. So I do expect to see a lot of hybrid cards available as part of the draft experience. Pre-release events. Grab your sidekicks and venture into the pits at an Outsiders pre-release event in a store near you. Pre-release events are running in over 1,000 stores around the world from March 17th through the 20th. Key dates. Card preview season starts March 4th in the U.S. Pre-release events in selected stores worldwide start March 17th through the 20th. Release date is March 24th. Outsiders product configuration. It is a 239 card set. There is 1 Fabled. There is 5 Legendaries. There is 31 Majestics, 51 Rares, 128 Commons, 20 Tokens, and 3 Marvels. I don't know how that lines up with other previous draftable sets.
I don't know either, actually.
There's five legendaries. I'm very curious to know what those will be. The Fables, ever since Command & Conquer got reprinted as a Fable, just my whole world turned upside down. I don't know what to expect here in terms of the Fable either.
Gonna be swing, mash, or smash a big tree.
Yeah.
The Fable everybody wants.
5 legendaries are exciting. You know, I wasn't even thinking about it. You know, we just saw this for the first time a short time ago, but I was not thinking of a Mask of Momentum reprint. But you know what? That makes a lot of fucking sense.
I don't actually think they'd go that way, though. Like, that Mask of Momentum has been reprinted in History Pack, and I think...
Bah. I don't think that counts nearly enough.
I don't know.
The other reason. Go ahead, Tommy.
Go ahead, Adam.
I was just saying the other reason I don't think they'll do it because they're like then they can't print it as a cold foil in this set.
Yeah, right. They can't, can they?
Well, they can't reprint it as a cold foil ever, and I think they'd want to reprint. Or I think they want to print all the legendaries in this set as cold foils.
Mm-hmm.
As a core set.
All right, fine.
Well, the mask archetype, it has still
I bet you we get another
room.
Mask though.
Yeah, we still have a lot of room to kind of explore in that design space of do this, hit this many times and get this. You know, we'll get something like that. What else does Ninja need? A generic chess piece?
They don't have a chess piece yet. Yeah. That's what they're missing.
They have plays in Yori.
Oh, the mirror tech, I guess.
Oh, true.
I'm not a huge fan. of that. But they do. I think Ranger and Ninja could really stand to gain some blocking equipment that sticks around. Like,
how about this, guys? I mean, this is something just popped into my head. Ranger, Ninja, and Assassin all don't have equipment pieces. What if we have Ranger, Assassin, Ninja, chest piece?
like a tribrid, or just a generic.
Well, no, only those classes can play it because they're already saying hybrid's a thing, right?
Hybrid equipment to go with it.
I could see like
Triple
Ninja.
hybrid?
Yeah, I could see those. There's overlap across those classes. I could like thematically. I could see.
Totally relates to the pits or something like that.
Yeah. All right.
LXS hire me.
I buy it. 16 cards per pack. That must include the token, I guess, right?
Yeah.
24 packs per display, 4 displays per case. Designed for booster draft, sealed deck, and constructed play. Contains cold foils. MSRP per display 109.90 USD. And map is MSRP less 20% in US and Canada.
Inflation's hidden fab.
Blitz decks, Blitz configuration, 40 card pre-constructed deck and hero weapon and equipment cards, 6 decks per display, 1 of each hero, 4 displays per case. Makes the purchase a lot easier for me. I'm just going to get a display of of Blitz packs. Designed as a fun and fast way to play Flesh and Blood, perfect for kitchen table gaming. MSRP $11.99 USD.
Well, here's something, fellas. 20 tokens. So if you count the heroes, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 young plus 1, 2, 3, 4 old. That's 10. You get Ponder, Frailty. We have 8 more tokens. So that would leave room for 8 weapons. Though I'm sure it's 1. Yeah, probably only 6 weapons and maybe 2 something else. What are we getting?
Well,
no.
I'm also thinking about it's interesting as a draftable set with the 16 card pack configuration with 2 of those being token. That only means 14 playables again as well.
Just like Uprising?
Just like Uprising. And that was one of the biggest complaints of Uprising was that there aren't enough cards in the pack. You're forced into your selection too soon. So the hybrid cards, I think, do lend to that in a part because you can make picks later because your card can be played in one or the other. But it's still like the hybrid cards are still good. It's going to be like the draconic cards in Uprising where yes, there were draconics that could be played in both Phi and Dromai, but yet some lent more to Phi and others lent more to Dromai, and you're still going to be fighting over those cards. So at the end of the day, I think 14 cards is still going to be not enough.
Very interesting. It does have, on its face, it seems like it has a potential to be a really positive draft experience there with just how wide open it can be. It'll be interesting to see. Is that definitely like as a 14 card pack? Is that 100% like how that works?
16 minus 2 is 14. Yes.
I'm saying the 2 tokens, I guess.
It's 2 tokens. I believe I read it's 2 tokens again. Let me.
I think they want to because they want to keep the thing they did in Uprising where the cold foil is not draftable.
Yes, that's what it is. It's because the cold foil is in the back and it's not draftable, so it has to be 2.
Fair enough.
But you know what? If to go back to the concept of token playables, if they expand on the token playable concept in this set, if it's more than just like if it's expansive enough that like every hero gets to use it to some extent, then I think the 14 card pack could be fine. It's just it needs to be. Phoenix Flames are a move in the right direction, but they and same with the Miter, but they only like Phi was the only one playing the Phoenix Flames, so it was fine for. And I guess at the end of the day, Phi was the hero that was easier to support the majority of the pool, so it probably was fine, but I don't think it was enough at the end of the day.
People with the hot takes all over the place. Sloop Tube, so 3 of a kind predicted the Marvels for the Outsiders. If you look at the art at 3 of a kind.
What?
Yeah, just let that digest for a second as you take a looking. Oh my god.
I don't buy that.
Hey, look, just saying they look pretty gnarly.
I mean, don't get me, it's cool, but I wouldn't say it's a predictor.
No, outsiders, a lot of potential here. I think as we round the bases here, hey, Elo got updated. I woke up, I looked at it, and went back to bed. I don't know. Elo is such a complicated conversation to have with people. So Adam, you are on. You grumbled. All right, tell me what Elo means to you and why looking at it had such a negative context for you.
Is because like for me, it's just I have no qualms with the Elo system. At the end of the day, my groan was more frustration with myself because like it's just from an Elo perspective, I was probably better off not playing Worlds than.
Yeah, but who's going to make that decision? I mean, do you not go to Worlds to preserve Elo?
Yeah,
like is that a decision one makes? Is that the right decision for you to make? I'm not saying you're making the wrong decisions here. But like, I'm just curious about the thought process.
So for me, 100%, I'm not going to let Elo stop me from competing. That's just counterproductive. It's just like you if you're gonna take that approach, you might as well just never play because you could always put your Elo at risk. Like you start with 1500 Elo, you might as well just never play and stay at 1500 Elo, and you can just say you have a perfect lossless record, right? If you're gonna look at Elo from that perspective, but Elo I'm curious to see like for me where some misunderstandings about how Elo works and would be applied at the beginning have left me in a position where I have a lower Elo than I technically should have.
Okay. All right.
I feel now I'm constantly fighting to try to catch up. Like, and it's a whole long story behind why my Elo's messed up, but, at the end of the day, I made some really good progress with Nationals this year and with Pro Tour 2. But then Worlds just kind of, I lost all that progress. And so where I'm curious moving forward is like how, like, I don't think XP is an adequate system for professional ratings by any means. And I don't necessarily, like, when people get frustrated about XP invites, I get it. Like, especially lifetime invites, because like me as somebody who just got into the game at the right time and was able to play a whole bunch, am so far ahead of people who probably are better than me, but who could never catch up feasibly as long as I just keep playing at a reasonable pace. Yeah, that's discouraging. But I guess then with Elo, it's the contrary, where it's like if you want to maintain some sort of professional proficiency, but you have a bad event and you fall behind in Elo, like you get punished for that. And so I get where people are coming from, that it's like, is it worth the risk of the Elo? Because they want to be relevant in the pro scene, and you're gonna have bad events, and like, how does that factor into your overall ranking, your potential to get invites? Like, I'm just curious to see how Elo is going to be applied moving forward, because those things? Like at what point, like where do we decide that we're going to switch from, XP rankings, XP rated invites to ELO rated invites? At what point is that fair and acceptable? At what point have we seen enough events that ELO is kind of leveled out and everybody is in their, in theory, is where they actually it's relative to what their skill level is, and not just they've only been able to attend 2 events and one of them they did well in, but the other one they did poorly in, and you know what I mean?
It seems like there's the people who are. I see a lot of conversations that are based around establishing ELO, preserving ELO, and then justifying the not playing. And I guess that's the part that kind of baffles me. Because in my,
I'll never condone not playing. Like that just defeats the purpose,
Right, and it does, and that's where I think I get confused. And not saying that you are not in fact refusing to play, but there are people out there who are going, my ELO. I guess I'm not doing ProQuest season, this month, and that's the part that it does not compute. I guess because it seems like. It seems like that there is people get high ELO from spiking an event. All right, I look at someone like I take Pheno Black as an example of his ELO score going into the calling Indianapolis, as far as I know, was not the highest, but he hadn't played in this type of level of event. He got second in the calling Indianapolis, and when ELO updated, he's like top 10 in the world at that point, somewhere thereabouts. And it seems like those who are able to do that seems to be more of the driving force in obtaining and then retaining these value points here, is whether or not, so like you can go like right now without anything. Hypothetically, I go to Baltimore to the calling, right, and win it. My ELO in constructed, presumably, would be in the top 20. Whatever it is. It's just the nature of winning that event and winning 12 rounds at a rated event as high as the calling. Against the people that you're facing. But you could have a flatlined ELO, as far as I know. You might not, maybe not flatline, but you're not 0. But if your base is 1500, mine's I don't know what mine is. I ruined a bunch of people's lives in US Nats. I know that by simply showing up. But there's no mechanism in place to gain ELO, I think, satisfactorily over time, excepting for the continual pursuit, of the victory in these large events. People are using their ELO as kind of a consolation for not winning, but it just seems like that pursuit is all that really, as long as you are pursuing, your ELO shall be where it should be, if you feel like your skill level is there. That's my 2 cents on ELO. If you I don't get why you would not play in a ProQuest to preserve your ELO, I guess, is where it all ends. Tommy, do you know your ELO score?
Yeah, I looked. I mean, listen, the only ELO I'm concerned about is Electric Light Orchestra. and you know what? I mean, I think people stress a lot about it, and I get it. I get that you're stressed about it, and you want to know and how important it is, but I still think we're so early into its process that we don't have an idea of the fully realized version of it, if that makes sense. I think we're still like maybe a year or two away from enough events and enough data to really make ELO a fully realized method of maybe talent or qualification or whatever. So while I understand people are nervous about it and anticipate it, I think it's worth. I mean, well, it's definitely worth noting that it has no ties to your own self-worth, but it has no ties to your own ability in the game, right? Currently, eventually, we will all be numbers. Now, but no, eventually it will be like a real thing, and I don't think it is the real thing yet. Hence, I mean, I don't know what they're doing for this Pro Quest or Pro Tour season. If they're going to look at XP, but as long as we're still looking at XP, that means ELO is not where we need it to be, if that makes sense.
I think that seems to be the consensus here is that, once, right, at XP good until enough ELO, then ELO probably the way to go about these things.
And yeah, Tommy, you're right. Like the system hasn't existed long enough to be fleshed out at this point.
Or blended.
I like as we're chatting about this, I'm just kind of scrolling through the leaderboards, and one thing I'm noticing though, and this is in part my own experience, but I think in part the experience of a lot of talented players who've had maybe like one bad event, like to for somebody who does care about ELO, to put into perspective so if I go back to the decision of whether or not to play Worlds, from an ELO perspective, going into Worlds, I was actually one of the higher, like I was on the higher part of the ratings for Canadian leaderboards. Coming out of Worlds, one event, I'm in the bottom 200 now, and in fact I'm below people who haven't even played the game before, like they're or played it at a pro level. Like they have a rating because anybody who makes a profile, regardless of if you have pro ambitions or not, you get an ELO at this point. And maybe that's part of the issue, is maybe you shouldn't just be automatically put into, maybe you need to qualify for a pro event, and maybe because like right now part of the problem with the ELO leaderboard is there's thousands of people on it, but thousands of people can't qualify for a pro event. And if you have like coming out of Worlds, I'm in the bottom, I for constructed 4,612, for limited 75. Like it's so low, and there's so many people, like and this is like just a couple points different and put you in those multiple of thousands of down or up in positions. The point people are trying to make is like playing Worlds and having a bad event was so punishing to their ELO score that it's like it wasn't worth it. Like now you're in a position where it's like, will you be able to catch up? Like the multiplier for like a pro quest versus what, like, yeah, the people who are worried about losing ELO at a pro quest, if they have good ELO, their ELO is so far ahead of somebody else that the multiplier at a pro quest, like you're gonna notice a change of like 5-10 ELO, but it's when it's losing one match, you lose 50 plus ELO, that, or here, let me get you an actual figure of like some ELO I lost from one. Where's my, here it is. Like we're talking losing 30 ELO at a time, which is fine if the player pool isn't saturated by the thousands, and if we, maybe you have to like I said, qualify for a pro event, or register for a pro account or something. I don't know. But there's just the swing of ELO with the amount of people, it becomes impossible to stay competitive if you have one bad event. It's like you can just never lose. It is kind of the way the system feels right now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so like competitive how? What is stopping you from playing in the next event? How does How does ELO stop you from playing?
So let's say
the game?
hypothetically tomorrow they say, or let's say hypothetically for this Pro Tour, they say we're only awarding invites based off ELO and coming first in a Pro Quest. So now, if I don't come first in a Pro Quest, that's it. My pro career, until I manage to qualify for or my attempts at, going pro or remaining pro are gone. That's it is. I was on a good swing, and then Worlds comes along, and it's one bad event, and now I'm out of that circuit. It is kind of, I think, how a lot of people feel.
I don't buy it.
Well,
no, I could understand that if that were the case, right? Like, but if we aren't going to wake up tomorrow and have a solely ELO based system, right? That would come with warning, and it would be set up in such a way that people would know well ahead of time. And if that were the case, then I get it. I fully get it, not wanting to screw up your ELO at that point, because it does in fact hold a lot of weight here. And I just, for full transparency, my ELO's dog shit. I don't know what I'm talking about. So for me to pull up your britches and play despite what your ELO says, I'm talking completely out of my ass. But it's a conversation. My ELO is 1529.14. I am rank 1332.
Your ELO is much better than mine.
You're rank 13. Okay.
I went 7-4 in rated constructed in 2 events, US Nats and calling, and I won on average 20 ELO per game, because that was the first rated event that I played in. So I joked about being a nightmare for people that I faced, because when I beat them, I ruined their ELO every time.
So yeah, it's, and you know what? Maybe an idea that comes to mind too is maybe part of I'm spitballing without knowing enough about the butterfly effects of what some of these changes could make. I wonder if maybe if we rated tier 2 events a little higher and tier 4 events a little lower, like, so you don't get punished as hard if you have a bad Worlds or a bad Pro Tour, but you are able to grind a little more ELO out of, battle hardens and Pro Quests.
Sure. I think helps. Right. If ELO becomes more accessible in the big picture, I think it eliminates a lot of the I think a lot of the issues that would come, right? If you cut it off today and said ELO is the only way you get into the Pro Tour, your list of eligibles just plummets. You're not going to have players in the Pro Tour at that point, so you can't there. But and given that now, right, you have more rated events, but those lower ones are not rated in such a way that you can be the top 100 in the world and constructed by playing whatever's, right? Scratches all day, right? You can't. It's not going to happen. So you still need an avenue for that to happen. To your point of, right, if you boost the multiplier for ELO so that you can actually win, right? If you win a Pro Quest or multiple, right? If you do the grind on Pro Quest season and play your 3 to 6 Pro Quests, and even if you don't top, you gain enough ELO to at least be in the conversation of qualifying. If you do more or whatever, then if you can Pro Quest and calling and do whatever, your ELO then would be up enough where you could qualify for a Pro Tour. Then you're talking, right? But I don't think it's there yet.
Yeah. My guess, like, at the end of the day, my guess is, because if we, like, looking at it logically, last year we had 2 Pro Tours and obviously there's only going to be 1 Worlds, and being that the 2 Pro Tours invites went to top 100 versus that Worlds little rate, they held it a little higher and invites went to top 50. This year there's only 1 Pro Tour in Worlds. My guess is it's going to be top 50 across the board.
That'll be interesting. All right.
I'm in.
You're in, right? You're in.
No, I'm looking. I'm looking at my ELO right now. It's not good.
Tommy, we have kept you here far too long. And we've dragged you kicking and screaming. We appreciate you staying here. I know that we've gone. I don't know what the time is right now in terms of what the run time is. It's got to be ridiculous.
We're at like 107 minutes.
Yeah, we've got no business being that long right now.
I'll try and trim some fat. We'll see.
All right, Tommy, we've talked about Outsiders, we've talked about ELO, we've talked about Pro Tour. Let's make sure that you have your platform here to plug all the stuff that you plug. Go for it.
Well, thank you for having me on. It's always a real pleasure. It's just hanging out with some buds, and that's what it's all about. And speaking of buds, I have two podcasts. One is Fresh and Buds. It's a weekly podcast that I'm now doing video for, which is crazy because
I saw it's nice to see your smiling face while you talk.
I think we need to hop on that video train, Pat, unfortunately. I don't know if that's unfortunate. Everyone's doing it. We can't not.
I think you're right.
I think I have to get off my old man soapbox. I had to realize people do listen and watch on YouTube, so I might as well give them an old twinkling eye, a nice little smile. So yeah, Fresh and Buds is humming and dinging over there. We have some great episodes. I mentioned them earlier. I do implore people to check out the episode I do with my cousin Dan, where I pitched the game to him. He played Magic with me for many, many years, and I've been trying to get him to play Flesh and Blood. So I felt like I should do a whole use it as a blueprint for your friends that don't play and you want to play, and hopefully it works. I'm trying to get him to go to Battlehard, New Jersey this weekend, but a whole bunch of stuff going on. And the Bud Rush Bellow that I do with Mr. Viz, you know him as Gary, the guy with a weird Viscerai waifu pillow. We do it live 9:30 Eastern on our YouTube. And it's a lot sillier of a show. We roll scab skins, we do stuff like that, and it's a lot of fun. And we interact with chat because it's live, and that's a lot of fun. And I am starting a new YouTube thing. I hopefully be out a few days after this show comes out. I'm going to, if anybody is familiar with Weekend Update from SNL, I will be doing a show. I think this is a title in the works, but it sounds right. It's like Flesh and Blood this week, and I'm gonna tell you the news in my lens, and I hope it's not the worst thing I've ever put out.
Coming on as drunk uncle.
Oh yeah. Oh, there will be surprise guest appearances and whatnot. So I'm very excited for that. And we have a ton of news already, and we're gonna have the first weekend of ProQuest in Battlehard, New Jersey, to kind of play off of that. And yeah, you can find me on Twitter at FreshBudsPod. Join the Buds Discord and all that fun stuff. And thank you guys for having me.
Thank you, Tommy, for coming on here. You can find the Combat Chain. We are on YouTube. You can find us if you search. You can find us at the Combat Chain on YouTube. Be sure to like, subscribe, and click the bell notification to know when the latest episode of this or the After Turn 6 podcast is uploaded. We are available on all audio platforms wherever you stream your podcasts. Best way to support us is through our Patreon. You can find us at www.patreon.com/thecombatchain, and you can subscribe to us there. It helps tremendously to keep the lights and mics up and running. If you want to just support the pod or get a shout out on the podcast or even exclusive access to our team testing channel, sign up on the Patreon today. And with that shout out perk, we'd like to shout out Clark Jansen as our shout out. He's our tier 3 patron, and here's your shout out, bud.
Thanks, buddy.
So it was revamped, it's relaunched, we reset the whole thing. So we're happy to have one. But if you feel like you like what we're doing here and would like to support us, please consider going to the Patreon and supporting us in one of those tiers. And I think that is that going to do it for us, Adam? Am I missing anything?
No, but I just realized I forgot to plug the Patreon in our last episode of Snap because
that's all right. That's all right.
I was like, I knew I'm forgetting something, but no. Here,
of course, you can find us on Twitter at the Combat Chain on Twitter. You can find us on Twitter at the Combat Chain on Twitter. You can find myself at Pat Smashgood, and you can find Adam at FABTCG. And I think that is going to do it for us this week. Tommy, do I need to tell you what we're going to do here?
No, not at all.
All right. Are you
we're closing.
You can't. Stop it. Son of a bitch. Until next week. We're closing the combat chain. Combat chain.
I wonder if anybody's made it this long in this episode.
It's a good one. Who gives a fuck? It's a good one.
I hope they laughed with us. I laughed. I had fun.
It's a comfortable conversation.